Hello everyone, I am Grand Royson, welcome to new video. Today I am going to discuss relation between Ayanokoji and Horikita. Suzune is the first person that Kiyotaka interacted with when entering the school. He first caught notice of her when they were on the bus after witnessing Kikyo trying to persuade Rokusuke to move from his seat for an elderly woman but to no avail. They formally meet when she inquired as to why he was looking at her as he replied that he saw a similarity between them in the bus incident. She told him not to compare them as she chooses not to get involved in such trivial matters as Kiyotaka notes that she's worse than he is. They are later shocked to learn they are classmates, which Suzune stated was a bad coincidence after they sat next to each other. After a few days in class, they appear to get along since they are both loners who barely associated with their classmates. It was noted by Kikyo that Kiyotaka is the only person in the class that Suzune interacts with at all and tried asking him to help her befriend Suzune, but it failed. In response to his supposed conspiring, Suzune forced Kiyotaka to aid her in reaching A class, and though hesitant he complied after she put pressure on his choice. Though she forced him to help her reach her goal, they appear quite close as he intervened when her brother was about to assault her. When she cried out for him to stop, he noted the sincerity of her voice which he never saw before in her, while she watched on in awe at him swiftly avoiding her brother's attacks. Manabu even stated he was surprised to see that she made a friend, but she bluntly replied that Kiyotaka was just a classmate of hers. After her brother hinted that Kiyotaka is more than he appears to be, she herself began to inquire about him only to receive vague answers, calling him strange. After a comment from him stating that her distant nature was what most likely caused her to be put in D class, it made her ponder on the topic and whether she holds herself back. After this event, she begins to become more aware of Kiyotaka's talents, as she immediately knew he helped the class pass their tests rather than Kikyo and questioned him over why, but he didn't give her a clear answer. While she merely sees him as means to enter A class, she later asked him about his close association with Kikyo, noting he seemed more inclined to help her than anyone else. Her tone of voice hinted at some irritation with his time spent with Kikyo. During the hearing for Ken, while Suzune found herself unable to speak out of fear from her brother's presence, Kiyotaka tickled her, which brought her back to her senses and she was able to give her case without problems. She later has him aid her in the goal to save Ken, and they are successful in forcing C-Class to withdraw their complaint, with both using impressive tactics to do so. Afterwards, she went to talk with Sae Chabashira, who said there was more to Kiyotaka that meets the eye, which caused Suzune to further wonder the true extent of his abilities and whether she could trust him. Suzune met him in the hall and the two would walk together in the rain, where she accused him of manipulating her so she would force C-Class to withdraw their complaint. This leads her to question him about his motives to assist in reaching A class while simply receiving the response that she forced him to. She questioned him further about his past and whether she could trust him, with Kiyotaka replying he was simply looking out for a friend. She dismissed this as a lie, pushing him further to reveal his history. In response, he told her that he will help her reach her goal but told her to not inquire about his life, marking the first time he ever got somewhat aggressive towards her. Despite the exchange, they were shown to still be on good terms as Kiyotaka invited her to the pool, which she refused at first, where he asked her to aid him in stopping the boys of their class from peeping on the girls during the summer break. When some of the girls discussed their associations with Kiyotaka, with Suzune stated she had no interest in whoever befriended him. Kiyotaka also tried to get her to loosen up by having her play with the students, though she still wondered why he hid his physical capabilities. Later on, she helped Kanji escape the girls' changing room by giving a speech to distract everyone, which later let her go into the change rooms alone and messed up the boys' plan that Kiyotaka informed her of. She ended the day in good spirits after Kiyotaka pushed her into the pool, leading her to do the same in reply when everyone else there with them joined in. Later that night, Kiyotaka sent Suzune an email which contained a picture of her with the other students, as she remarked on how she got along fine without others but smiled at the gesture anyway. During the school survival test, Suzune asked Kiyotaka about his future after school but received no answer. After the panty thief incident, the girls decided to move their side of the camp. Yosuke Hirata was chosen to guard the boys. Suzune had no problem with this but made sure that Kiyotaka was also chosen to guard because he didn't seem like the type to do anything scandalous. Her decision was met with some initial protest since Kiyotaka wasn't well known in the class, but the decision was made regardless. When he finished guarding, she approached him and he asked why she made him a guard, as Suzune replied that she didn't trust Yosuke as he seemed like a secretive person with a different side to him. While she said the same went for Kiyotaka as well, her reason for making him a guard implied that she trusted Kiyotaka to a degree. Also, she blushed when he put his hand on her forehead after finding out she was sick and hiding it from the class. Suzune was left in shock after deducing Kiyotaka burned the survival manual, leaving her to wonder why he might have done so. After the survival test, he found an unconscious Suzune after her fight with Ibuki and took her to a tree before she awoke. They talk, where she confided in him of her reasoning for wanting to reach A-class and admitted she did indeed want allies, before he implored her to withdraw from the test, but she refused out of pride although she collapsed soon after, and Kiyotaka took her to the teachers and to be withdrawn from the test. After the test, she was surprised the class had won the survival test and immediately suspected he had a hand in it. She met up with him and questioned him on how the class passed the test, and he told her his plan and how he outsmarted the other classes with various tactics, which left her in amazement at his intellect. She soon inquired about what motive drove him since he had no clear intention of reaching A-class. She was also surprised that he gave her credit for the correct guessing of the other class leaders, much to her dismay. In the anime, she caught up to him again and confronted once more as he calmly stated she needed allies and noticed she finally changed. After he confirmed he did everything to help her, she got flustered and blushed before begrudgingly thanking him as she said she will see him as an ally. This displayed that she has come to respect him since he has helped her in both overcoming her social shortcomings and when she is unable to complete a task. In the light novel, their relationship is more or less similar to the one in the anime as he tries to befriend and get her to open up but is constantly rejected due to her solitary personality. In Volume 10, she took the advice of Kei Karuizawa to heart after she told her that if she couldn't bring herself to trust Kiyotaka unconditionally, she shouldn't expect him to do the same and that their relationship would never progress past the surface level. Additionally, she ended off by saying that for herself, she has nothing to fear from Kiyotaka but can't say the same for Horikita as it is apparent that she still harbors fear that he may betray her. In Volume 11.5 Suzune asked him why doesn't he show his true abilities, since there's some other smart students like Suzune herself and Kisi he can become well known, but Kiyotaka said no one is on his level. Suzune then decided to test Kiyotaka's abilities. The test was that they will complete in one of subjects which was later chosen to be math. Suzune said if she won she wants Kiyotaka to help with class. Kiyotaka said if he won he wanted Suzune to join student council. Kiyotaka and Suzune were the only ones who saw Manabu leave. Suzune said why does Manabu give Kiyotaka the most attention to? In second year Volume 1, she was horrified when Kiyotaka got stabbed in left hand and was worried but Kiyotaka said don't worry it's nothing. Later the exam's result came. Suzune scored 87 while Kiyotaka got a perfect score. The reason Suzune could not answer all questions was because the last questions were the type of questions that were more like intended for university people not high school. In the second year Volume 2 short stories it is stated that she values Kiyotaka highly subconsciously and wants to avoid disappointing him. When Kiyotaka wants to see and asks her to join the student council, Suzune felt obligated and wanted to make sure she did so and avoid the chances of failure at all costs from happening as it was an important request he had made her carry out. To her own surprise, she subconsciously valued him and his words of wisdom highly. A part of Suzune wanted to learn more about the extent of his true abilities that Kiyotaka was hiding from her. More so, Suzune also came to the realization that there was another part of the former who yearns to have Kiyotaka, who is respected by her brother, to acknowledge her as someone who he can confidently rely on in the future. Suzune thought Kiyotaka was most likely the reason why she went to join the student body with a positive attitude. Suzune acknowledges that she wants to cultivate and gain some experience by working with the President Miyabi Nagumo and the Student Council as a means to hopefully gain Kiyotaka's acknowledgement. In second year Volume 4, when confronted by Ichika Amasawa about her relationship with him, Suzune admits that she had finally begun accepting him as the first friend she was able to befriend in school and talk to without apprehension in the classroom. At first, Suzune thought Kiyotaka was just an average student, but he was actually much smarter than she initially thought since the latter had gained recognition from her older brother. Suzune declares to Ichika that from then on until graduation in their third year of high school, the former desired to continue understanding him better, as not only her classmate but as a close friend, more than what Ichika claimed she knew about Kiyotaka. Unable to lie to herself anymore, she calls this objective her wish, understanding that Kiyotaka had helped her out on more than one occasion despite her failures. She considers Kiyotaka to be an indispensable person to her and her whole class, as well as an important comrade who she and her fellow classmates can't do without. Additionally, she added that if he was in a precarious situation, it would be impossible for her not to rush to his side and aid him. She was willing to give up heading to her designated area and risk the chance of expulsion in the uninhabited island exam by letting her position drop all so that she can try to save her friend from whatever unknown danger that lay ahead in I2 involving his possible expulsion. She was relieved that nothing seemed to have happened to him once she eventually met up with him in I2. That didn't stop her from constantly eyeing and asking him if he was truly fine. She was grateful to Ichika for presenting her the opportunity to reflect on how she wanted the relationship between her and Kiyotaka to progress in the future. As of Year 2 Volume 4.5, Suzune has found out about Kiyotaka's escapade on the rooftop during the events of Year 1 Volume 7. She questions herself why she hadn't grown suspicious that Ryuan suddenly stopped attacking their class but didn't question the validity of Ibuki after she told her that Kiyotaka single-handedly stopped Ryuan and his accomplices. In second year Volume 5, like any other students of class, she was shocked to hear Kiyotaka and Kei's relationship. She asked Kiyotaka with a hint of anger in her eyes how long has he been seeing her. When Kiyotaka got everyone's ire for nominating Eri for expulsion, she defended him. Suzune wanted to ask Kiyotaka if he was responsible for Takuya's expulsion, but Kiyotaka's phone rang and he had to left. When Kiyotaka returned, Suzune had fallen asleep. Suzune then wanted to ask Kiyotaka about Takuya, but Kiyotaka had to go and meet Kei. Kiyotaka said they will talk tomorrow night. When tomorrow night come, a funny scene occurred, that Kiyotaka said she was exposing her defenseless sleeping face to the world. Suzune said, "Do you want to be kicked?" After that Suzune asked about Takuya and several other questions, but Kiyotaka did not tell anything about White Room and said he only set a trap for the student who wanted to expel him. Suzune said that Takuya's behavior was strange, that he did not care about 20 million point bonus and wanted to expel Kiyotaka. If you like this video, please like, subscribe and share. For more, thanks you all, meet you in another video.